Yes, my name is Bob Bauman, and I basically came out of retirement to do this rideshare business about 2.5 years ago. I actually retired from the casino industry here in Minnesota. To be honest with you, I'm not going to tell you my age, but I'm going to just say I'm definitely a senior citizen, and I've enjoyed this very immensely. I've had an opportunity to get out and see a lot of people and talk to a lot of different varieties of people that I honestly can say in the 2.5 years I've done this, I believe I have been in every local community in the Minneapolis-St. Paul market. I don't think there's any I've not gone to. Of course, that throw in the fact that I'm setting at currently 8,500 rides. Well, as I had mentioned, I came out of retirement to do this. My wife retired about the same time I do. My wife and I have been happily married. In February, it'll be 45 years. So I came out of retirement, but you know, we talked about it. She retired the same time I did, and about a year after we've both been retired, and I use that term figuratively speaking, we decided that one of us should go back to work. And I think I was the winner. But honestly, I didn't have any problem doing that. I was ready to get out and do some more things because quite honestly, I don't know, sometimes retirement's not really cracked up what it's supposed to be, and I needed to get out of the house. Okay, my most interesting ride. Well, there's several of them, but I'm probably going to go with one what I think is fairly humorous. On the night before the Super Bowl, I got a call to pick up this gentleman in downtown Minneapolis. So I get to the location and I look up and I see there's a gentleman and two young ladies. They start to crawl into the back, and I noticed there was another gentleman with them. So I motioned for the other fella to get in the front seat. Well, just as I'm motioning for him to get into the front seat, I have to say, folks, the largest human being I'd ever seen in my life sat down in the seat next to me. I mean, he was huge. So I'm talking with him and we're carrying on a conversation. It's late at night, the music's going and everything is popping and so forth. And I'm not really picking up on the things that they're talking about. Well, anyway, a couple minutes into the ride, the gentleman that requested the ride reaches up and taps me on the arm and he goes, "Hey, Bob, you a football guy?" I go, "Oh yeah, I like my football." He goes, "Well, no, you know, the Vikings got a center. His name's Pat Elflein, right? And he's a pretty good center, right?" I go, "He's an excellent center if he could stay healthy. I hear he's going to be fantastic." Well, he says to me, he says, "Well, now let me ask you another question." He goes, "Now, who do you think is the better center? Do you think it's Pat Elflein, or do you think it's that guy Matt?" And he's snapping his fingers. Matt, I don't know, he plays for the Denver Broncos. "Who do you think is the better center?" So I thought about it for a minute and I go, you know what, I don't think there's any right answer. So I go, "Well, listen, you don't even know the guy's last name out in Denver. How the hell can he be any good? It's got to be our guy, Pat Elflein." Well, all four of them just break out laughing, and the guy back reaches up and taps me on the arm again and says, "Hey, Bob, yeah, let me introduce you to Matt. Oh, actually, let me introduce you to Matt Parody, the all-pro center for the Denver Broncos." He said right next to me, and I look at him and I go, "Matt, I'm sorry, but they really threw me on that not knowing your last name, right?" And he goes, "That's okay, Bob. Pat Elflein and I are good friends. Pat Elflein's going to be a heck of a center. If somebody asked me if somebody named Matt or Pat Elflein was a better center, I'd take Pat Elflein every day of the week." Well, in my opinion, the biggest challenge about rideshare, and again, guys, after 2.5 years of doing this, honestly, is to stay motivated. I think a national statistic that I read recently that the average Uber driver lasts about 4 or 5 months. Seriously, it's stay motivated. And I have to say, honestly, with the recent additions by Uber, the Quest, the opportunity to make more money, you know, people are constantly complaining about the low rates and this and that and everything, but you know, the fact of the matter is that you get out of this industry what you put into it. If you want to just work 2 hours a day and expect to make 300 a night, you're not going to do it. You've got to put the time and the effort in. So in my humble opinion, the hardest part about this is staying motivated. Now I could say we need more money, we need higher rates, we need this, we need that. But in reality, it really comes down to what you put into it is what you get out of it. Okay, well, Saturday evening, this past Saturday evening, about 12:30, I get a call from a gentleman to pick him up out in Lake Elmo. I pick him up and I start the trip, and it says we're going to the Cajun Club, which is in Holton, Wisconsin, about a 10-minute drive. So if you don't know, Uber cannot pick up over in Wisconsin. So I told the gentleman, I go to him, sir, I says, I can get you over there, but I'm not sure how you're going to get back because Uber doesn't pick up over there. And he goes, oh, I know that, Bob. I go, no, but I got a question for you. We got a question. I go, what's that? He goes, well, what would you charge me to stay there for the hour and wait for us? So it was a Saturday evening, and I just jokingly said, hey, I need $100 if you want me to wait for you. Honest guy reaches in his pocket, pulls out a $100 bill and says, done deal. So we drive to Holton, Wisconsin, and I drop him off, and he says, now you're coming back, right, Bob? You coming back? I go, I promise I'll come back pick you up. So I told him I was going to go get some food and come back. So I do. About an hour later, I come back, and the gentleman that originally requested the ride comes out and says, hey, Bob, you know what? They're open until 2:30, another half hour. Do you mind if we stay another half hour? And at this point in time, I'm thinking, okay, whatever. And he says, I promise, I'll take care of you. I said, okay. So he reaches into his pocket, and he brings out 6 crisp $2 bills and hands them to me. He says, these are what they're giving us to give the girls. So he gives me $12. So I felt privileged that he gave me the money anyway, $12. So then 20 minutes later, they come out. We're heading back to Minnesota. And by the way, if you know anything about it, I couldn't start the trip till we got over the bridge in Stillwater because obviously Uber wouldn't allow us to make the connection. But anyhow, so as we're coming down the road, the gentleman says to me, can we go through Taco Bell really quick? And I go, hey, no problem. 2 drunk gentlemen order $44 worth of Taco Bell. Okay, so we go ahead and we get back to the house. I drop them off, and the gentleman in the back seat's collecting the food, and the guy in the front seat's getting up and he's getting out. So I'm thinking, well, maybe his idea of taking care of me was the second, $12. Well, he reaches in, as he's getting out of the car, he says, you know, Bob, you're a man of your word. I'm a man of mine. I promise to take care of you. Here's another $100. He gave me another $100 bill. So about an hour and 20 minutes worth of work I made in that trip, $212 plus the amount of the money I made on the ride. Okay, the most I've ever made on one shift. I went back and I looked through the last about year and a half, and it was no surprise. It was New Year's Eve 2018. Well, just 2017 and 2018. I worked about 9 hours that shift, and I made a little over $400 that night. Now, I did go back just to see if there was any other nights that were non-New Year's night, and I found a whole slew of Fridays and Saturdays were $330, $350, $370. But to answer the question, the biggest one was, I think it was about $402 or $403. Not bad for 8 hours worth of work. Well, quite honestly, I drive for both Uber and Lyft. And honestly, I haven't taken a Lyft ride in about a year and a half. And it's not that there's anything wrong with Lyft. It just so happens that I feel that the more money to be made is with Uber. And honestly, I really haven't seen a need to go back to Lyft. And if it ever changes, I certainly will. But at this particular time, I pretty much exclusively drive for Uber. Well, there's a couple of them. One, and I see this all the time, I belong to several different networks around the country. And one of the biggest questions I hear is from drivers, well, what happened? I was approaching that surge and it left, and I don't know why it left, blah, blah, blah. Well, the problem is people don't understand what the surge really is. The surge is not actually a situation where there are rides that are occurring and people are standing there waiting for rides. The surge is actually an algorithm that basically is structured based on how many passengers have their app open potentially to request a ride, and how many drivers there are in that area to offset those rides if everybody would request. So what happens is when a driver says he sees this surge and he takes off for it, and as he approaches it, and I will guarantee you there's not a driver out there that's not going to realize this, as they get close to it, it starts to diminish, it diminishes, it diminishes, goes away. So in reality, by you chasing that surge, or the driver's chasing that surge, you've in essence, you've just ruined or wrecked the surge. Now my other thing, pet peeve, and this is something that I'll have to admit, when I started this business, I did it too, but I've learned is, don't block the roads when you're picking somebody up. My God, find a safe spot, get off of the road. I mean, if you got a passenger standing there waving at you, you're gonna run and jump in and out in 10 seconds, okay. But if you're gonna sit there and wait with your four-way flashers on, you need to get out of the mainstream of the road. Again, it comes back to several different things. One, make sure your car is in immaculate condition. That's inside, outside. If a passenger gets into your car and sees that it's dirty or grimy, or you got stuff laying on the floor, you're already putting them in a bad mood. Converse with them. Establish a rapport. And as I had mentioned in another video, I have a tablet that I run on the back of the passenger seat, just reminding folks of various things. I like to refer to it as my informational tablet. But the biggest thing I can say is enjoy the trip. Have fun. Engage your guests, and the tips will take care of themselves.